On the completion of this lesson, you will be able to classify disasters into natural, man-made, and complex. Explain the causes and effects of flood, cyclone, drought, water and climate-related disasters. Explain the causes and effects of earthquake, geologically related disasters. Explain the causes and effects of disaster related to industrial accidents. Explain the causes and effects of biologically related disaster like epidemics. Okay, let us start with a question. What makes an event a disaster? How do we call this an event a disaster? Why do we sometimes call, for example, flood that happened in Dubai not a disaster, and the same magnitude of flood that happens maybe another country like Haiti or Sudan, we call it a disaster? What defines a disaster is how the population is eventually affected. So the magnitude and the complication that the population of that country suffer, that's what makes a disaster a disaster. We'll talk more about that. Both direct effects on the people as well as indirect effects or damage onto infrastructure, that's what makes a disaster a disaster. Definition of disaster. According to the United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Reduction, defines disaster as a serious disruption of the functioning of a community or a society involving widespread human, material, economic, or environmental losses and impacts, which exceeds the ability of the affected population or community or society to cope using its own resources. So one phrase I want you to get out of this session, memorizing from this definition of disaster. The most important phrase is exceeds the ability of the affected community or society to cope using its own resources. That's why I said a flash floods in UAE cannot be defined as a disaster, but the same flash floods in Haiti or another country can be defined as that.